Hello and welcome to the Jason Eldridge Photo Show. In this video, we talk about astrophotography with one of the laziest people I've ever met. All right, well, I have with me today, is it Cuiv? Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's good. That works.
Cuiv the Lazy Geek. That's a weird last name, but we'll go with that.
That works too.
So, as most of you know, I've been getting into astrophotography lately. So, the last interview I did was with Sarah Matthews. Cuiv, I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's fantastic, got a great YouTube channel, very
Yep.
easy to understand. And I did an interview with her, and then I decided to reach out to Cuiv to find out if I could finagle an interview with him. And we knew it would be a challenge because he does not live in the States. He lives in Tokyo, and that is a 13-hour difference. And it took me a little bit to understand how that was going to work. But Cuiv, thank you very much for joining me.
No worries at all. Thanks for reaching out.
All right, so now I'm going to go off on a limb here. You don't look Asian, and you don't sound Asian. So I'm going to think that Tokyo is not where you're from originally.
Yeah, that's correct. I am not from Tokyo originally. Yeah, from France.
From France. Okay. My wife
Yep.
said she thought your accent was French. So I was like, oh, okay, well, then we'll go. That's
Yeah.
how I found out how to say your name. She schooled me and made sure that I didn't make a fool out of myself, at least not with that.
Yeah, man, she's absolutely right. I'm French. A lot of people somehow guess like Northern European or German, but yeah, I mean that's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. I have the French accent. I can do a very French accent as well on demand, but
Oh, my
that
goodness.
depends. Yeah, it all depends.
So do you speak Japanese as well, or just
Yeah,
English?
yeah. It's Japanese.
I can't even speak English, and I've grown up with it my whole life. So I couldn't
Well,
imagine two other languages. Oh, my goodness.
yeah,
So,
I can't speak English properly either, so we're on the same footing there.
okay. All right, so let's talk about astrophotography. How did you get into astrophotography? Was it before you came to be in Tokyo, or was it after?
No, it was after I was in, I mean, I've been in Tokyo for like what, 18 years now, so
Oh,
yeah, it's
wow.
been
Okay.
long. Yeah, and astrophotography itself. So I done like as a kid, I had done some astronomy with like a pretty terrible Newtonian 115 millimeters aperture. It was actually bought from a store in Paris called La Cité de l'Astronomie, and the scope's name was the Ganymede 115S. So if there's any Frenchies watching this video, let me know in the comments if that still exists and if it was a good scope or not. It was a Newtonian on a terrible equatorial mount, and I never collimated it because I didn't know that collimation existed. But I saw two bands of clouds on Jupiter, so that was nice. And I could
Yes.
see the Orion Nebula that, to my eyes, at least at the time, looked green. And probably because our eyes are very sensitive to green, that kind of makes sense. And yeah, so that was just astronomy in France. And then in Tokyo, for whatever reason, I bought an ETX 125 because those scopes at the time they're absolutely beautiful and sexy. Like I don't know, they're beautiful. So I bought an ETX 125. I did put a camera on it to record an annular solar eclipse at some point from Tokyo, and then I went to an LT6 again from Meade, Alt as, and I started really like I put a Sony Nex 5, the very first mirrorless camera that I'm aware of, on that to start doing astrophotography on the Meade LT6 properly on deep sky. Got some images. It was a huge pain. I was inspired by a guy on cloudy nights called Warren. I don't remember his last name, but he was doing a lot of astrophotography work from a similar Meade LS6 telescope. So that's kind of how I got started and bitten by the bug.
Oh, well, I found you on YouTube because mainly I was just kind of interested in the beginning with astrophotography, but then we got into post processing. And
Yeah,
as I mentioned before we started recording, oh, I'm a terrestrial photographer. This will translate super easy, and it's not even close to the same.
yeah,
So it's like relearning
yeah.
everything. And PixInsight, oh my goodness, that program is not simple. When I started watching your YouTube about how to just set it up in the beginning, I was like, there is
Yeah.
no way I'm going to be able to do this. It's not going to happen. So I kept having to pause it. I'm like, why am I copying URL links? I don't understand any of this. So I know a lot of times when I'm watching your stuff, I'll get to a point in the video. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And it's not a language thing. It's not your accent. It's like this is way up here. So I have to bring it down, learn about it, and then go back and watch your video again.
And just to tell you, like if you go on Discord and you look at some comments on like the Astrobiscuit channel, a Discord channel, for instance,
Yeah.
a lot of people do not like my PixInsight tutorials at all because they rely on scripts too much and they're not optimal. And they're not. That's true. They're not optimal. But they're made to give you like 80% or 90% of the way with 10 to 20% of the effort.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're definitely not optimal. And I'm not a PixInsight master at all. So I often get requests to do like one-on-ones to teach people PixInsight. I'm like, I don't know anything beyond what I have on the videos. So you're talking to the wrong person, basically. Yeah, PixInsight is hard. When I started, I didn't even know PixInsight existed. I don't even know if PixInsight actually existed then. That was
Mhm.
like in 2010, something like that.
Mhm.
And yeah, I used some free tools like GIMP, something called Fitworks, Fits Liberator, something like that from NASA. And there was, and then at some point, some guy released a tool called Star Tools, and that thing for a while was amazing. And then I discovered PixInsight. I splurged on the expensive license. I think it was in 2015, and it's been more than worth it. Like it's the
Yeah.
single most like useful tool that I have in the hobby. It's the one thing that I still have after all of these years. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough.
I decided right in the beginning to go ahead and do PixInsight because, as I
Yeah,
mentioned, being a terrestrial photographer, I'm familiar with Lightroom and Photoshop. But like Photoshop, for example, I use probably 5% of what that program can
right.
do. And
Yeah,
there's no reason to reinvent the wheel every time. Just because
yeah,
there's a harder way to do it doesn't mean that that's the way you should do it. I see a lot of those comments too. Well, back in my day, yeah, I know you had a horse and buggy, but you don't ride a horse and buggy anymore.
yeah,
Use what's out there now. Use those scripts. Use those things that make your life easy. And like the blur exterminator and the noise exterminator, I mean, those things are amazing. And it's just
they
all
are.
you got to do is sit there and wait for a few seconds and your noise goes away. Why would you need to do it any other way?
Yeah, I
So,
mean, a few seconds if you have an NVIDIA GPU, a few minutes if you don't have that.
okay.
But
Yeah.
like I never used Photoshop, so I don't know how it works. But a lot of people they finish up after it's inside. They finish up in Photoshop for the
Mhm.
colors. So
Yes.
the color control in Photoshop is apparently much better.
And the way that I have done it so far is I'll take the stars out and then I'll take the starless image and I'll bring it into Lightroom because you have really easy access to masking tools like
Yeah,
brushes and that sort of thing. And I know Clarity does a really good job of local contrast, so it can bring out
yeah,
what they call them Bach globulars, the
yeah,
parts in the nebula, and you can really bring those out. And it's a lot easier in Lightroom. So I'll usually take it out, put it in Lightroom, and then bring it back into PixInsight to put the
yeah.
stars back in. But I say that like I've done it a lot. I've got like 3 images that I've done, so it's not like I've
Hey,
done a ton. So,
one is luck, three is definitely skill. So you're there.
all right, yes.
There you go.
Okay, so you're in Tokyo.
Yep.
And I'm gonna. It is just a little bit light polluted from what I can
Tiny bit.
understand.
Just a pitch.
So, to get into astrophotography in the middle of a city like that, that's an interesting choice. But what is it like to image in the middle of such a massive city?
So first, like getting into astrophotography in a large city, you're saying it's an interesting choice. I would say it's a no-brainer compared to
Okay.
visual, because
Oh,
visual,
yeah.
I did quite a bit of visual with my LT6, and then I had an LS8, so 8-inch Schmidt Cassegrain
Yeah.
telescope, and basically globular clusters are fun, and nebulae and galaxies are really difficult to see what's going on. And once you attach camera to that, you can see the details, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
So in a way, even without any light pollution filter, it was a way to beat light pollution by being able to expose for longer than my eyes can do on any given object. Right? Even though you lose some of the wonder, there's something absolutely amazing about looking at like the wild duck cluster or M13 with your naked eye. And the more you look from the corner of your eye, the more like the stars pop up, and it's like
Yeah.
small points of light on silk. It's amazing. But yeah, astrophotography definitely reveals more. And yeah, I mean, it's a light polluted city, but still a lot that can be done. And when it comes to broadband, so like mostly galaxies are star clusters, I don't really use light pollution filters for
Mhm.
broadband because I haven't seen like any of those, like, I don't know, Optolong quad band, L Pro, CLS CCDs, all of those things. Uh, Now that we're in an age of LEDs, like the light pollution is broadband as well. And we definitely, like, all around my house, it's only LEDs in the streets, and the cars are LED headlamps, and the buildings are LEDs. Everything is LEDs. So the whole spectrum is covered all the time. So I just use a UVIR cut filter and
Okay.
take 30 seconds exposure, because any longer than that, it will saturate the sensor. So I just take many 30 seconds exposure and I process. But I am to some extent limited to bright objects because I'm too lazy to get out of the city. Also, I need my beauty sleep. So I always have trouble going out of the city and then setting up and then taking pictures. By the time it's midnight, I just want to go home and sleep, right? So it's
Yeah.
always a bit of trouble. But
So the
when it
moniker "lazy geek" is real, is what you're
It
saying.
is real. It is real. There's two things. Like I'm not lazy in a lot of ways. The lazy means efficient, right? So if I can automate something, I will automate it. And if and unfortunately, driving to a dark site at this stage cannot be automated. So I will. I mean, Starfront, I guess. Starfront would be automating that, but that's not fun. It's
Yeah.
cheating.
Yeah.
Oh
That's
yeah, yeah,
kind
no.
of, I've looked at those. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of cool. But for me, a lot of it is the enjoyment is setting up and hands-on kind of situation. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Starfront is actually really nice, and I used
Mhm.
it, but then I was annoyed by how much clear nights I had with Starfront, and I felt
Oh.
like, oh, I have to use this rig every single night that it's clear, otherwise I'm like wasting stuff, and then it felt like an obligation rather
Oh.
than, fun. And then
Yeah.
of course you have to download the files, do the processing. Processing is painful. So in a way, Tokyo worked out well for me because I need to take a lot of frames before I can process. So I'll only be processing like once every couple of weeks. That works
Yeah.
out. So
Yeah.
it's very frustrating though that even with narrowband, I can never achieve a result even with narrowband that's as good as in a dark area, even with much more imaging time. So that can be a bit frustrating, but it is what it is. You can still get good results, and
Yeah.
it's fun. And yeah, that's what I want to communicate via the channel, right? I'm in Tokyo. Well, technically, I'm 500 meters from Tokyo. I'm not quite in Tokyo. I can walk there. Technically, I am outside of Tokyo, but close enough. And but that you can image from very, very light polluted areas and have fun doing so. even though your results will definitely not be as good as if you were in a dark zone, but it's still fun. So that's
Right.
the point.
Yeah, I live in West Palm Beach, Florida, and I think it's a Bortle 7 right here where
Yeah,
I'm
that's
at.
pretty bad.
What's funny is right out here, I live in a townhouse, so I don't have a roof. I don't have really a backyard
Right.
or anything. I've got a backyard, but there's trees everywhere. And there's
Yeah.
one spot in the middle of the parking lot that I can actually see the North Star to polar align. And so I'm out in the middle of the road effectively trying to set up, and people are walking by waving or driving by
Yeah.
waving at me. And I have this one little tiny window to the southwest that I can see the sky. And so sometimes I will image from here, but I'm fortunate enough that about 30 minutes from here, I've got a Bortle 4 site. Well, I'd
Yeah.
say it's more of a 5 than a 4, but I
Yeah.
can drive out there. And usually with the astronomy club that meets there, there's a few people. So I'm not always alone out in the middle of nowhere. But that's what I'll do. What I've done a few times now is gone out to that site. So it's not too
That's
bad
good.
to load up and go. But
Yeah.
I've also got a spot right out here. And I've got the L Ultimate narrowband
Yeah.
filter. But like you said, it's a lot of LEDs now, and it doesn't help very much with those. But
It still rejects pretty much everything except those 2, 3 nanometer band passes,
yeah,
assuming they're well centered. That's always the trouble with narrowband filters. You never know without measuring them with a spectrometer. So yeah,
okay.
it's always a doubt. Yeah, I don't know
Well, I
if you've
don't have
seen. I
one of
have
those, so I'm gonna hope that what I've got works.
exactly, but that's what very frustrating with filters. It's gotten much better these days. Like any filter that I've tested the past couple of years, I would say has been up to spec or close to
Okay.
up to spec. Whereas like in the 3 years ago, I found quite a few that were like not even close to acceptable. So yeah, it's making progress, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, the L Ultimate is good in terms of really rejecting everything else than those two band passes, and it matches well with something like your ASCAR V. It wouldn't work well with a faster telescope, so
Right.
it
Yeah.
it
I
worked
think they
out.
said anything F4 or faster, you need a different filter. So
Yeah, even F4 might be a bit like bit too fun technically for the L Ultimates.
yeah. All right. I want to talk about the advancements in technology a little bit because I
Yep.
kind of got into it. I think from what I read, it really exploded in 2020 with COVID and the pandemic and all that
Yep.
stuff, and a lot of people wanting to find something to do that didn't involve other people. So, from what I can tell, I got into the ASI, the ZWO ecosystem,
Mhm.
because it just seemed to me like it was easier to deal with. I mean,
Right.
I'm green. I'm not green with photography, but like I said, it doesn't translate very well.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
two different languages, two different ways of doing things, and so I started with ZWO, and it made sense. I put it all together. It worked. I can autofocus. I can guide. I can do all of those things that when I first read, I was like, "There's no way I'll ever be able to do this." And so you got ZWO, but you also have Nina software, which is free,
Yeah.
but it looks like you've got to deal with the drivers, you got to deal with setting it up and getting it to work.
Yeah.
Do you prefer one over the other, or the advancement in technology? Has it been what was it like before the ASI
Right.
or ZWO or Nina, that kind of stuff?
So, I mean, like before all of that, the first real automation software that I used was Backyard EOS, which was for Canon cameras. I had I think 600D and then a 650D. The 650D, I had the Bayer matrix on the sensor scratched off. So it was a monochrome Canon
Okay.
camera. The 600D, I had just done the mod myself, removing the IR filter from the stack. But yeah, the 650D monochrome was pretty funny. Uh, really an interesting thing. And using that with narrowband filters, and that was before the initial ZW camera, I would say the real deep sky ZW camera, the 1600 mm cool, didn't exist at the time. So it was Canon DSLRs. I had used a little bit like Meade DSI cameras, Orion Starshoot cameras, all CCDs, pretty bad driver support. But yeah, backyard EOS that let you do sequences. So I would manually use the controller, like the hand paddle, on the mount to go to my target more or less. And then I had to like center it manually. No plate solving, no auto centering, none of that. Which is super hard in Tokyo because so much light pollution, it's impossible to figure out where you're pointed at. And and then backyard EOS would control the camera over USB, which was mini USB, I think, at the time. And just like go through a loop, taking exposures. Meridian flip wasn't done automatically either, so it was not great. Then I discovered, I think around the same time that I discovered PixInsight, Sequence Generator Pro, SGP, which a lot of people still use. I think until recently, Dylan was using that, Dylan O'Donnell. Also, even now, I think Chuck uses that SGP over Nina. And SGP was really nice. But I think around 2019 or 2020, I saw a post on Cloudy Nights about Nina, and I started testing it out. And at the time, Nina had so much potential. And there's a thread on Cloudy Nights somewhere that I started to do a review of Nina at that time, basically, where I was like positive but also very negative about some aspects. It couldn't work well with color cameras because it didn't do any debayering. If it did, it didn't do per channel histogram transformation, and autofocus with color cameras was terrible. It was kind of okay for monochrome, but terrible for color. And so I personally contributed many hours to Nina. I wrote codes. A lot of the autofocus, the vanilla autofocus in Nina, I really built up. I made it work for color cameras. I added the debayering with per channel histogram. I spent so many hours getting sample data from a lot of people, a lot of different cameras to fine tune the star detection algorithm in Nina for autofocus. Added stuff like direct guider so you can dither if you're not guiding. Added stuff like refocus if your HFR has changed by X% within N frames, that kind of stuff. So I poured a lot of sweat and tears into Nina, so I'm not objective at all, right?
Oh, okay.
And I've tested a lot of control methods. I've tested the ESI Air, the smart cameras from ZW, the TaupeTech Astros, Stella Vita now, the StellarMate Pro, StellarMate OS, the default K-Stars ECOS, and I always come back to Nina, simply enough. And the ESI Air, it works great, but for me, it lacks a couple of features that annoy me. So, like one of those features is if you have a monochrome cameras, I want to have filter offsets. So I can autofocus with my luminance, then go back to H alpha or whatever, and it will just move the focuser to account for any mismatch in focus point between those two filters. It also means that in Nina, I can do like, if I'm doing SHO, instead of having like 10S, 10H, 20O, and then it's just like one color or one wavelength after the other. And if clouds come in the middle and then you have 2 weeks of clouds, then you're stuck with a monochrome image until you manage to hopefully get more data. In Nina, with the filter offsets, with the way that you can use the sequencer, you can do SHO, SHO, SHO without any autofocus in between. Super convenient, super automated. So that's one of the things, that the SIR, which is super simple, doesn't have. And another thing, like Nina will copy all of the files onto my processing PC, throughout the night. So I wake up, I don't need to do any data transfer. It's all on the PC. There's like the flat wizard. So flat wizard, it's like if you have a flat panel that is adjustable light intensity. So these days I have like the RB focus flip-flap panel.
Okay.
Nina will just adjust the light intensity and do all of my filters one after another. I have nothing to do. I can just sleep while it's doing that. You can even do your flat frames as part of the sequence. It's awesome. So all of that automation, it really lets me be lazier, even though the initial setup is much harder. You have
Right.
Windows, it's the main issue. Windows is the root of all evil. Uh, Windows, ASCOM, ASCOM drivers, native drivers, and then when you have all of that, you still need to install plate solve stuff, and then Nina, and then it works.
And then
So
it
I
works.
have, yeah, exactly. But once you get it to work, it's incredible. But there's
Okay.
like the uphill battle at the very start that you need to, make it work. And that's
And then
where,
yeah, you'll have to do that if you change PCs as well. You'll have to redo it all.
exactly, exactly. So you need to redo it, or you can just take an image of your stuff and reimage the new PC, but that's a bit more advanced, right? So it
Yeah.
gets, yeah. So there's the uphill battle, but the rewards are sweet, right? The
Okay.
roots of knowledge are bitter, but the rewards are sweet, type of stuff, right? So that's where I
Yeah.
am with Nina. I've worked so much on it that I know it very well. I know how to use it, and it just works perfectly for me in all scenarios. The
Perfect.
ASI Air, in contrast, I mean, I have a ton of non-ZW cameras, so those are out.
Yeah, those
If I
are
use
out.
yeah, the ASI Air, I have that flip-flap panel. It's out because it's not. I mean, there are some flat panels that kind of work with the ASI Air. It's a bit of a workaround, and then
Yeah,
the
it's just basically turning the power on and off. That's
yeah,
all. That's
exactly.
all
And
it
then
does.
changing the level of the panel. That doesn't work with
Yeah.
the smart cameras, by the way, or the ASI Air Mini. So yeah, there are workarounds. And the
Yeah.
ASI Air, it's truly as easy as 1, 2, 3. If you go to my
Mhm.
channel, watch my first video about the ASI Air, I'm worse than Owen Wilson. I'm saying wow, 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 all over the place because it's amazing. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's done so much for the hobby. But my main issue is that it keeps you into the ZW ecosystem.
Yeah.
And
And, from a company's perspective, I understand a little bit, but it seems like if they would open it up to all of the other brands, the other cameras, the other focusers, all of that, they might lose sales on the focuser, but they're going to make a lot more sales on the ASI Plus. So
yeah,
I don't understand why they do it that way, but
well, there's two things, right? There's one, it's like there's the Apple ecosystem type of stuff, right? Which
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense. But it also means that they have to support all of those native SDKs for all of those cameras,
Yeah.
right? And so they need to get the updated SDKs all of the time, which are not guaranteed to work, and then they need to support that. And
Yeah.
I can tell that they are already pretty annoyed with having to support all of those mounts. Um, because when they started they didn't have the AM5. If the ESI Air was released like this year or last year, maybe only the AM5 would be supported, AM5, AM3, whatever, because it's
Okay.
easier that way, right? And they're hugely popular mounts at the same time, and
Yeah.
they're very good too, so it's
Yep.
justified. Exactly, right? But at the same time, so I love the SIR. It's amazing. It's brought so many people to the hobby.
Mhm.
It's built in the product managers. I'm a software product manager, so I look at the SIR and the product managers and the designers. They did an amazing job with the software, like really amazing stuff. But at the same time, it keeps people in the ZW ecosystem. And when you compare prices on like the 2400 MC Pro camera compared to its top tech equivalent, which is the Sky Eye 24 AC, I think it's
Mhm.
several hundreds of dollars of difference, right?
Wow.
And if you're in the ZW ecosystem, you can't really switch to that.
Yeah.
And but it's genius. It's amazing stuff, and it really makes things as easy as 1, 2, 3 while using open source software. So like the root of it is still like Ecos K-stars in the background, kind of. I'm exaggerating, but it's a
Okay.
bit like that, right? So it's a very interesting and very well built system. I don't hesitate to recommend it to beginners, but I tell them that they have to know that they're going to be kind of stuck in the ZW ecosystem. And
Yeah.
I always think that I'm talking about the support. And ZW's argument, whenever I ask them why they don't open up the SI Air, they're not going to say, we're like Apple. They say it's because of the support, right? Because it's too much pain to support. I asked the CEO, Sam, at a conference in Japan, like in February, directly, and it's on YouTube as well. And that was his answer as well. I asked him, like, what do you think of the Tube-Tech Stella Vita, which supports a lot of different camera manufacturers and is also quite easy to use? And he said, like, oh, they're going to die because they're going to have to support all of that stuff. But at the same time, DSi Air supports a lot of DSLRs, which are notoriously hard to support. And when I look at that, I'm like, I mean, I don't know if that's the reason they did it, but it's good to catch beginners and keep them in the ZW ecosystem as they upgrade to an astrophotography dedicated camera. Yeah.
Yeah,
Again,
I mean, it hooked me. You know, that's why I've got what I've got, because it's easy. It all works together. You just plug and play. And like you said, 1, 2, 3, and you're imaging. You've got great results. I know that ultimately I'll probably want to go to Nina, but for right now, I'm just having fun in with the ASI Air.
Yeah. It's really amazing. And it reminds me, like, there's one qualm as well that I have with the ASI Air is that you lose the imaging time at the meridian. That always annoys me because it's the best time to be imaging, especially when you're in a light polluted area.
Yeah.
So you have to pause before meridian and then flip a few minutes after. And Nina, I can just image through the meridian and then flip automatically. So it's a small thing.
I had my first meridian flip the other night, and it didn't go well because I didn't actually have it turned on. So it turns out you have to turn it on to have it actually flip for you.
But you know, you look at the ASI Air and they thought about it. They thought about the meridian flip for a lot of mounts. They have the reverse deck output after meridian flip option for your guiding, which is necessary for some mounts, like on-step mounts, for instance. So they thought of that. It's obvious they put a lot of thought into making the meridian flip work perfectly. And it is more difficult to get meridian flip through the like imaging through the meridian and then flip later. Get all of the settings correct, both in your telescope settings and in Nina. It's definitely much more difficult. Once you get it, it's awesome. And also, I've shown ways that you can test the flip during the day so that you don't need to wait for the night to actually check whether your meridian flip is going to work. But yeah, it's it's some fun stuff.
So do you think we're going to continue to see this kind of automation make it easier and easier for folks?
Yeah, I mean, these days, even Nina has some applications on smartphone. There's Cygnus Astro, there's Touch and Stars. Cygnus Astro in particular looks almost identical to the ASI Air. So if you have your Nina set up properly, you can control it mostly from a single app, but it's lacking some sequence modification functions at this stage, but they're adding that. So it's getting closer and closer. The biggest weakness in Nina is still going to be Windows and getting a mini PC that is going to work properly with a proper Wi-Fi hotspot and that you can connect to it without issues, and then you launch the app and you're there.
Yeah.
The difficult part is the Windows hotspot stuff. There are some people who have figured it out. So like Gaius computers, the Gaius S2, again by RB Focus, it starts its hotspot as Windows starts, and it works without fail. That's amazing. I have no idea how they did it. But I see within a year something like a well set up Gaius S2 or whatever successor it is, plus Nina, plus Cygnus Astro or Touch and Stars, be as easy as the ASI Air.
Wow.
But you do need to have it set up correctly in the first place. So you do need to spend that couple of hours at the very start to set up the PC properly. And
I think it would be a little bit like it'd be a little bit like the PixInsight, where you got to spend that first hour or so trying to figure out how to get it set up, and then after that you're good. So. That's
exactly it. So I have a 4.5 hours Nina tutorial on the channel. I called it like switch from the ASI Air. At first I called it dump your ASI Air, but that was a bit too violent. So I changed the title to switch from the ASI Air to Nina in one video. And I think 1 hour of it, the first 1 hour is installing stuff, basically. And then it's sequencer because it's super powerful, but it's complex. And then it's like, all of the cool stuff you can do with it. Like you have plate solving, meridian flip, all of the parameters to get perfect autofocus, which is a bit of a pet peeve of mine with the SI as well. Sometimes it doesn't stop at the point of best focus. Close enough, not quite.
Oh, but not quite.
Yeah, it uses the two-pass algorithm from ECOS basically, or something very similar, which is robust, but it can stop too early. But that's something else. So yeah, it's very interesting stuff.
Yeah, and it's only going to get better. So I'm sure that over the next 5 years, Nina and the support and all of that stuff will just get easier and easier to work with. So
if Windows doesn't break everything, that's the biggest weakness of Nina, it's the platform that it relies on. And we all know that Microsoft is adding all of those AI features, ads in the OS, all that kind of stuff, whereas the SIR runs on a Linux-based OS, right? So much easier to maintain. So the TalkTech Stella Vita, just like the StellarMate Pro, they're also on the similar Linux-based OS, so they're fine as well. So it will be good to see what automation comes there because they support more stuff than the SIR. Yeah, a lot of... And you look at the C Star as well. Uses the same base as the SI Air, and it's also amazing software in there, right? So it all links back together into more and more automation, which for some people might make the hobby less fun. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm somewhere right in the middle. I don't mind to fiddle with it, but if it starts getting into the hours and hours and hours of trying to figure it out, I'm like, there's probably something else I could be doing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yep, completely agree.
So I'm going to shift gears a little bit.
Yeah.
On my channel, I've gotten, this year anyway, I've been talking a lot about personal vision from the artistic side of things. So what we've been talking a lot about today has been very technical, very, that kind of idea. But I think for a lot of folks, you get into astrophotography. I do because I love the images. I love the way they look. But then the night sky is pretty well, I know it's moving and I know all of that kind of stuff, but to our eyes, it's relatively unchanging. For our lifetime, it's going to largely be the same. So now you've got all these pictures in the sky that are exactly the same for every person. So how do you apply your own vision to something that's static that everybody sees so that your image doesn't look like everybody else's image?
I don't care about other people's image. I actually don't really look at other images.
Perfect.
I don't, a lot of my images I don't share. I share some on Instagram because I kind of have to as a content creator kind of stuff. But I have a ton of images I don't share. They're just for me. I had fun taking them. It was the challenge. I processed them. They look nice. I don't think I even show them to my wife. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And it's fun, right? That's it. So I have no artistic bone in my body at all. I haven't, like, composition for standard terrestrial photography. No idea how to get good composition or anything like that. I have zero sense, zero intuition, and all of that stuff. So, I
do have I've got some really good news for you, and that is that everybody, no matter what, even if you don't think you're artistic, you've got your own vision. And whenever you're doing what you do, that vision will find its way to come through. So you might not think you're artistic, but we're all creative. When we were little kids, we all played, we all had fun, we all created things. And then real life kind of got in the way and kind of scooted all of that away from us. But your vision is still there. Who you are as a person, how you view things, how you decide, all of that. You may not be able to say, oh, it's the rule of thirds or the rule of odds or any of that. All that's noise. The only thing you have to worry about is whether you like the image or not. And I think what you
Exactly.
gave is the best answer you could give, which is I don't really care about anybody else's pictures. I just do what I do, and I make images that I
Yeah.
love, and you can't beat that. That's what we're here for.
To tell you the truth, like the way that my artistic vision works is because I'm lazy. I'll just go to the Nina catalog or the ASIR catalog, choose a target, then go to the framing wizard, look at my target and make sure it's kind of centered on the sensor. I never really think about other targets. I don't think about mosaics because that sounds like a pain in the butt. Everyone
It
asks
does.
me to do like a video about mosaics. I'm like, I don't take mosaics. If I'm gonna need a wider field of view, I'll just use like a larger sensor or a smaller focal length telescope, because if you have a larger field of view, I don't need to zoom into it and see the details. I can be undersampled as much as I like. Doesn't matter anymore because I'll be looking at it from a super zoomed out perspective.
Right.
So I don't do mosaics and I don't do rotation either. So my
Okay.
sensor is always at in Nina or ASIR, it would be 90 degrees rotation. Always at that. I don't rotate the sensor. It's a pain in the butt. I would need to retake my flats. I don't like doing that, even if it's automated via the flats wizard. And so I just center the target, image away, have fun, and that's it. And I keep imaging the same thing all over again, and I still have fun with it. Like it's summer. If it's sunny, I'll image the Pelican Nebula because why not?
Okay.
That's it. I
No,
contribute nothing in
and
terms of
like you
like
said,
result.
yeah, like you said though, you're having fun with it. This is what you love to do, and you make images that you enjoy. If you're
Exactly.
not
That's it.
doing that in this hobby, then you should probably pick a different hobby. So
Yeah, I get the question all of the time. Whenever I do a video about a smart telescope, people are like, "It's not fun. Might as well go and download the images from Google." And I'm like, "No, it's not the same." And also, please don't decide for other people what they enjoy. Thank you very much. Goodbye. I
that's
mean,
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
if you enjoy the process of driving 2.5 hours and setting up at a dark site and imaging all night long and getting and driving home, if that's what you enjoy, then by all means go do it.
that's fine. And
So
there are people who just enjoy downloading pristine data from remote obsies, not even controlling the equipment, just downloading the pristine data and processing it. And why not? That's
yeah,
awesome.
yep.
It's
If it's available and you enjoy doing that, then by all means have at it. So
exactly. Sometimes there's a bit of gatekeeping, or I don't know. I
there
don't know
is.
what there is, but it's like I think I've been guilty of that as well in the past. So maybe
Yeah, I
it's
think
human
some of
nature.
it's like a tribal mentality. You know, it's
Yeah.
if you can see it really heavy in politics. That's why I don't like to talk about politics at
Well,
all.
in the US these days, yeah.
Yeah, and it's right fighting. You know, it's what my
Yeah.
side or nothing else. And a lot of
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
get that way in the hobby too. It's the way I do it. You know, I drive out 2.5 hours, and if you're not putting in all this effort to get these images, then you're not doing it right.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I had a gentleman recently. His whole life he's been a astrophysicist, so he's been very heavy on the science side of it. And I
Yeah.
was talking. He's like, I hate astrophotographers. They don't do anything right. They do all of this stuff. It's not science based. There's no room for art in this. And I'm like, whoa, come on. I think there's room for both. He's like, no, there's no art. I'm like, okay, all right. So
That's interesting that it says that because very obviously the NASA pictures released to the public are art. Like the
yeah,
processor, they use PixInsight and they have to choose like the Hubble palette, and then they have to
yep,
balance the different colors, and they have to pull out more oxygen 3 to just show the oxygen 3 over hydrogen alpha. It's very subjective, but it's like a subjective representation of the elements within the nebula, and that's perfectly
right.
fine. But it's a mixture of art and science, and it's
It
art
is.
at the service of science. That
Yep.
works for
And
me.
think of what it's done for astronomy and astrophotography of having those images for people to look at,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
all of that being released to the public, it gets everybody interested, and the more people that are
yeah,
interested, the more money that flows into the science, and the more science, the more we get to
yeah.
learn. It's just it all works together, and there's nothing wrong with any of it.
I don't do any science with astrophotography, but using like plugins in Nina, for instance, you can observe the transits of exoplanets with amateur telescopes, right? By just looking at the brightness of the star over time, you know, like there are known exoplanets that have transits, and people are able to plot the light curve going down when the exoplanet is in front of the star. You can do that with your ASCAR V behind you, I believe. So
Wow.
it's crazy stuff, right?
Yeah.
You have, if you look at, there was a video from what's his name, Rory Astrobiscuit, where
Astrophysics.
he used multiple telescopes from multiple people that had large enough apertures, and to resolve some elements that were only resolved up to now by basically the Hubble, or that kind of stuff. Sorry. So it's it's pretty amazing what can be done from a science standpoint. And one of the things, you know, that sometimes I enjoy is looking at science fiction and seeing how authors in science fiction often recognize that amateur astrophotographers can be useful. So a recent example is the book called Project Hail Mary by Andy
Yep.
Weir. I think
Read
they're
it.
making a movie out of it. And there's a whole section about like how amateur observations, astrophotographer observations, allowed them to look at the brightness of the stars across the years to figure out how the calamity was propagating basically between stars without giving any spoilers. And I like when that's recognized, because that is indeed possible to do with just amateur astrophotographers. And it is one of the only hobbies where we can contribute scientifically if we're minded to do so, right?
Right.
And one of the things is like or whatever object collisions on Jupiter, people managing to catch that when they just happen to be taking a video of Jupiter and
Yeah.
something impacts Jupiter, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and it's not like NASA or somebody has necessarily a telescope always pointed at these objects. So
Exactly.
having an entire planet full of people that are looking means that your chances of
Yeah.
catching something are much greater. So
So it's vindicated science, but then a lot of people just don't do science like me. They just take pretty pictures, which is
yeah,
fine too.
that's where I'm at. I like reading about the science, but pretty much I just like you said, pretty pictures. So
Exactly. Yeah.
all right. So I think we've covered about every question that I had. Um, we know that we're just going to see more and more automation.
Yeah.
Hopefully sooner than later, but we'll see. Right now, I'm quite content with what I have set up, and that's what I would recommend for everybody. Is if you've got something that works for you, then keep using it. So
Yeah.
there's no reason to upgrade if you don't have to, or change if you don't have to.
If it
You
ain't
know,
broke, don't fix it.
that's
So,
right. That's right. So, where can everybody find it? Obviously, you have a YouTube channel. I know that you have a
yep.
Patreon that helps support you and your YouTube channel. But
Yep.
are you on any of the other socials? You mentioned Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, I'm kind of on Instagram and Facebook, not super active, and that's pretty much it. I know a lot of people, they reach out to me on Instagram and Facebook, on YouTube, on my email, and the problem is that there's just too many, and I end up I read all of them, but I have to ignore a lot of them because I have a full-time job, etc. So it can be really difficult. Also, I give priority to my channel members, Patreon supporters
Of course.
for my time, right? Which makes sense.
Yeah. No, I don't have very many followers on my YouTube or anything like that. So
Yeah.
I only occasionally get questions. But I can understand how that would just be overwhelming because you have several thousand. I don't have the number, but you got a lot of folks that watch your channel, and I'm sure a lot of people reach out to you in various ways. I reached out via Facebook, and I'm like, I totally understand, but you got back to me through that, and then I got your email, and we started emailing and trying to figure out
That's true.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
logistics of this.
You were lucky because I don't check Facebook that much.
Well, I figured that's usually the place I start. So I'll start
Yeah.
just putting out a feeler to see if anybody's interested. And some folks I never hear back from, or if I get the email, I'll email them. I don't hear back from them, and I totally get people are busy.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm very thankful that you responded and that we were able to work out something, and we've got this. It's going for about 50 minutes now, so I think I'm going to give you some time back, and we're going to call it a day or a night for you, because
Awesome.
it's 13 hours ahead of me, and for some reason I had it that you were 13 hours behind me, and
But
yeah,
this is
math
the
is
land of
hard.
the rising sun for a reason.
That's right, that's right. So, Quiv, thank you very much for being on the show. I really
My
appreciate you taking the
pleasure.
time to spend with me and to talk about astrophotography, and I wish you only the best for your channel. And folks, if you're just getting
Same to
into this,
you.
or if you're interested, go watch his channel. Some of the stuff he says might not make any sense at all, but I promise
It
if you
can be a
keep
good
watching,
example.
eventually it'll start working. So,
Awesome.
yeah, all right. Thank you very much, and I'll see you around.
Sounds great.